Welcome back to Swine TV, another episode through swineweb.com, the mini series with Dr. Joe Connor. Today we talk about segregated production. Welcome, Dr. Connor.
Thanks, Jim. Happy to be back.
So what is the Dr. Joe Connor take on segregated production, and why is this important?
Well, segregated production was really an inflection point for our industry, as it really drove forward changes in pig flow and in pig health. It was based on medicated early weaning and modified medicated early weaning when we had the thoughts that brought forth by Dr. Tom Alexander and Dr. Hank Harris that we could actually create a higher health status of pigs by segregating the wean to finish flow or the nursery finish flow from the sow production itself. In the initial stages, it was designed to elevate the health of breeding stock, but then very quickly producers such as Randy Stacker recognized that it could also be a change in the commercial flow that might improve performance of pigs.
Can you talk about multi-site segregation?
Multi-site segregation was a development as well from segregated production. So in the original design, segregated production simply referred to the separation of the growing pig flow from the breed to wean flow. But as unit sizes increased, then went to multi-site production, which then allowed the population size and the breed to wean to increase, and then the growing pig population to be grown out at more than one site. And then over time, the industry recognized as well that separation of those sites was also advantageous from a health and performance standpoint.
What disease is it set to control or eliminate?
One of the things we learned is, Jim, that we probably overvalued the quote elimination of diseases, because that really is a reflection of the health status of the sow herd and the wean age itself. The early programs, which were based on medicated early weaning and modified medicated early weaning, had quite young weaning ages, as well as generally vaccination programs and antibiotic programs that quite successfully eliminated individual pathogens. But as you take that to what we would like to achieve on commercial production, which is weaning ages in that 21 to 25 day range, and with the ongoing inclusion of gilts into the population, we recognize that you could not consistently eliminate many of these pathogens on an ongoing basis. But at the same time, though, we recognize that segregation did allow considerable improvement in performance. And I think almost as important, Jim, is it gave us the ability to collect data on a group or a lot basis. And that information is what really drives the changes that we see and we need in the growing pig production.
So, Joe, is there an ideal age for commingling?
Well, I think we've gone away from, if possible, commingling, because one of the things we've recognized as well is that we're quite challenged to have the same health status between the individual sow herds. In the ideal case, if we had a similar health status, then commingling does allow us to reduce the fill times in the grow finish facilities and does improve then overall economic return. But because we still deal with viruses such as PRRS and swine influenza, that varying health status between those sow herds has really challenged us to commingle.
So what's the best way to move to segregated site production, Joe?
The best way is to have that separation of some distance from the breed to wean to the grow finish production. One of the interesting things that our industry has turned back to in some cases to be able to achieve that is to go back to batch farrowing, which then increases the number of pigs that can be weaned in a very short time period to fill the facilities in a very short time period as well.
And what about pathogens? How are they transmitted within a multi-site operation?
They're transmitted in several different ways, certainly from the breed to wean or the sow through vertical transmission. So the pigs themselves still carry the organisms, even though they're moved off site. That does vary depending on, as we discuss, the wean age and the parity structure of the sow herd. Pathogens also are transferred horizontally from populations that might be in close proximity. They can certainly be transferred by fomites, and they can certainly be transferred by transportation.
What about international use or how it compares or affects in the US?
Globally, the industry has accepted segregated production, and so it's really similar in all areas of production today around the globe.
And what about you, Dr. Connor? Life update in general. It's the summertime. What's new with you personally?
Continue to work on the same areas. I think we recognize that during the summer we have some additional challenges as we get into July, August, and September. Currently this week, we expect quite high environmental temperatures, which will have an effect on performance. So the goal really is to continue to stay proactive.
Dr. Joe Connor, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.